This is my video for a full body implementation of Fabric, my final year project. And here, what differentiates this from the previous is we have a closed loop. And why we need a closed loop is to keep the distances of each joint constant. Obviously, if we started moving our shoulders further apart, it doesn't look very realistic, especially once you start adding textures. And this is just done by finding the midpoint of all the joints other than the root. And we simply orientate our root to look towards that midpoint, and we'll see this in action. I'll give a quick demo now. We can see that our arms move here, and when we move an arm, we'll start to pull towards the object and orientate our closed loop here. Take the right arm, move it down, move it forward here, and we still maintain our interjoint distances or our bone lengths. And this can also use pulls to create elbows. Do this here with the legs. And joints are quite difficult in using Fabric. And I'll be going over this in my report based on the paper published by Andreas, who helps create Fabric. And if we were to add multiple closed loops, which isn't implemented here for the sake of time, but we'd simply do the same process here, find the midpoint, look towards this midpoint, and then what we would do is we would find the line that is drawn from this, between this midpoint and this point here. We'd find the difference, and we would simply, so this would orientate more towards this way, like this. Yep, and I think what's good about this use of Fabric is that, much like the spider or the entity, what we can do is we could save animators a lot of time. So for instance, if we quickly move these similar sort of fashion, obviously without constraints this looks slightly unrealistic, but what we could do is have a sort of sword swing made here by having two targets at or even sharing the target. And we could create a slurp from a point to another point to emulate a sword swing, and having the targets be the sword pommel. The benefits of this are that if you use IK across your character types, the only thing that will change maybe is where the path that the targets take. Everything else is already handled for you, and so you don't need to create separate animations for maybe enemies or players, characters with different size limbs, different dimensions. This is all handled by Fabric itself and just saves a lot of time and can provide quite a realistic looking animation. As you can see here, if I move this around, it would sweep around this way with the pole going that way. This could also just be used for cutscenes, general animation, maybe even minor animation like feet on uneven surfaces. You can just have them orientate towards the normals of the floor that they're touching, just to give a little bit more realism. This is more useful for things like cutscenes and animation, where maybe you want a hand to go around a door, or you want to push a door open. It looks a lot more realistic and is a lot more time efficient to just have a target that the hand reaches to, as opposed to having an animator create this sort of animation sequence. We can go into the code quickly for a closed loop. As it's slightly different because we have to take multiple instances of a Fabric algorithm for each hand, and so this here takes these chains down to the root, the legs go up to the hip, and we handle all of those in the root here. And there it is. Yeah. So this is just for the closed loop. Here we have midpoint of the vertices. Let me create a normalized direction. And to add on to this, if we had two closed loops, it would maybe indicate somewhere that we had multiple closed loops attached to one route. Find this direction, and as displayed here, we would find the distances, do the exact same process, and get a midpoint of those two distances to create a more realistic look. These chains here are handled with a multiple end effector script that's created, and I'll go into that in the next video. But that simply just allows for one route to handle. If we go into here, one route to handle multiple effectors, and we'll show that in the next video. Thank you.